And there would be times where I'd be performing a song, look down, look back up, and I'm seeing people like wiping tears out of their eyes.
Wow.
Or, and then that's at that very moment I knew it's like you're spitting out and you're letting out a form of energy through sound waves and words, and it's affecting the masses. So and that was then like, okay, music is a powerful tool.
This is Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, with Whitney and Jenkins. Hello, and welcome to the 11th episode of Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, where I bring on guests and we talk about the inner authentic voice and the challenges and the rewards that come from following it. This week, I have with me Kajad Alobeyo, who is an international performer and songwriter and recording artist. He was born in Congo and came to the US when he was 9. He grew up in Philadelphia, which influenced his roots in hip-hop, where he gained success locally, which also prompted him to tour all over the world, including Tokyo, Amsterdam, and Germany. Kajad has a gift of connecting deeply with the words and the music that he shares and creates, and also keeping a connection to his roots in the Congo. I met him as a coworker, and we shared an office, and we would always have deep conversations and solve all the world's problems. So it seems really natural to have Kajad on here. He's a father, one of the most genuine people that I know, and constantly searching for ways to remain authentic and also make waves and have an effect within the culture and society. And so I'm really excited to introduce you to Kajad.
Hey, how you doing, Whitney?
How are you?
Good, I'm good. Hey.
It's been so long. Years.
Man, it's been how long exactly can you say? 3, 4, 3?
I want to say at least 3.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
So what have you been doing in Philly?
Well, I've been back here, of course, with family since the pandemic hit really hard. I was back here with my kid, with school being virtual. So I've been spending time with family at the time and kind of adapting to that. And then, been getting involved in some real estate business work down here, and
nice.
At the same time working on a project.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Philly gives a nice little base for that.
Yeah. Are you working on music stuff?
Yeah, I'm doing a whole lot of music stuff up here in Philadelphia, but I'm actually gonna be relocating back to Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because of the music side of things.
So it's going well. Sounds like.
Oh yeah. I just started working with a new team of people down there, and everything's been going pretty well. So 2021, we should be kicking it off real good.
Nice. Sharing an office with you, kind of very past life, it now feels like. I think we got in some pretty in-depth conversations.
Yes.
Yeah. So I knew you would be a good candidate for this.
Yes. Congratulations on the podcast, by the way. So I'm really happy to be here.
Well, thank you for joining me. I'm glad to have you here. So one of the first things that I ask my guests is, when did you first recognize that you had a voice of your own that wasn't influenced by others?
I would say I had it early, but I didn't tap into it. I felt it at a young age. I would say probably in like middle school. Mm-hmm. I had an inner voice that I knew was there, would speak to me, but then I didn't really tap into that probably till like towards the end of high school.
Okay. And you were born in not the US, right?
No, I wasn't born in the US. I was born in the Congo in Central Africa. I came to the US when I was about 9 years old.
Wow. Okay. So what was that difference like for you? Do you remember, did you have any expectations or any impressions of America before you got here?
Well, what we saw on TV, all the good stuff that they show us, and we wanted to get there. I wanted to have fries and just drink an orange soda, and things like that. We saw in Fanta commercials and things like that. But it was exactly what I expected it to be when I got here.
Really?
Yeah. They did a good job at that. Now there were some things that, of course, as you get to explore wherever you are, you find out you learn more, and it can change your perspective of what you thought it was going to be to what it actually is.
Right. And so did you speak English when you moved here?
No, I was speaking my native tongue and two other languages. I wasn't interested in learning English because I'm 8, 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to pick up another language. And then it's like, who am I going to speak my native tongue to other than my siblings? So I learned English through rap music. Like I just started listening to hip hop and would play some songs that I liked and written them down on paper and rehearse them to myself. And I picked it up really quick from there.
Yeah. Who introduced you to that music?
It would just be the neighborhood. Like it would be cookouts and I would hear it. And then I would ask somebody who that was. And whenever it comes on the radio again, I would get a tape player and record and play button and pause button how we had back in the day to go ahead and record it and go ahead and write it on a piece of paper and kind of go from there.
Wow. And so at what age do you feel like you had a real handle on the language?
I would say like 10, 11. I by 10 years old, I was pretty fluent.
It only took you like a year. Wow.
Yeah. It was real quick. I'm a fast learner. I soaked it real quick.
Seems like that. Okay, so when and how you're very good with words and spinning them in what you do with your music. And they come from a very authentic place. So when did you learn to take your inner voice and turn it into words?
Probably high school. In my high school age, I would then learn to like express them, and what we do is freestyle, where it comes off of the top of your head, and you're just saying what comes to you first.
Mm-hmm.
It hits you, and you're letting them out, and then next thing you know, you have this story or this idea, and then now you organize it again in your head, and you let them out, and you now have an entire verse of something you've written out that came from the inside.
Yeah, and where, like, if you could explain how that came to you, like, what inspired those words?
It started off like just poetry, just things that I would personally go through at a young age, trying to fit in a new side of the world, and also embracing new cultures, and then learning to express them that way. So I would be around my brothers, and he would always just put an instrumental on, and I would just say words over instrumentals, whether they made sense or not. It was just whatever came to me first.
Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like a flow.
Yeah, exactly. It just started flowing right through me that way. And I knew then there was something like deeper.
Yeah. Where did that flow come from? Like, was there something that you were able to tap into? Did it come from somewhere else?
It was something that, it's like a spiritual thing that hits you sometimes when you're in the studio nowadays. And I'm able to do that now because I've done it for so long. But when it first happened, I couldn't understand it. I just knew it happened, and it came out of nowhere. The lights got dim, and I would pace back and forth or snap my fingers. I'm always moving around.
Yeah.
When my brain's moving, and when I learn to just calm down and let it happen, it happens.
Was your family and your parents, were they encouraging of this?
No, I would have to sneak and do it. I remember my mom, when they would clean up, they would throw away these. They didn't encourage it. They weren't really hip to it, especially coming from you. You were just gonna be a doctor, a lawyer, or something in that realm. They didn't wear it. Anybody tapping into their creative side later on down the years, like when other people would say, "Man, have you heard your son do this?" or "I paid it," and it's like, well, let me see what's going on here. And now the support and encouragement is there. But at first, no, not at all.
Okay. So when did you have an understanding that the words that you were saying were powerful and had the ability to affect people?
I would say when I did my first big show in Philly, it was at Signal Sounds and Entertainment Center downtown Philly. And I then went from recording music to performing them live. And performing them live, you're able to see and feel the reaction, the energy in the room, and see how people are reacting to it at that very moment. And there would be times where I'd be performing a song, look down, look back up, and I'm seeing people like wiping tears out of their eyes.
Wow.
Or, and then that's at that very moment I knew it's like you're spitting out and you're letting out a form of energy through sound waves and words, and it's affecting the masses. So and that was then like, okay, music is a powerful tool because we do that now. We have certain songs for certain emotions in our body and certain playlists. If we want to go and have sex, you have a music for that. If you want to go to the gym and work out, you got a playlist for that. If you're down in the dumps, there's certain songs that cater to those emotions, and it's just a powerful thing to have, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's even more powerful when you understand that you are able to do that.
At what age would you say you were when you discovered that?
In my early or late teens, early 20s.
Okay. And so did your parents eventually come around, or did you have a support system around you encouraging you?
Yeah, I had support. My brothers, I'm one of five, all boys, and so they were always around. Then I had friends and other people that would push for that, and I saw how much they believed in that craft for me to not be able to let anybody else down, in that way. And then my parents finally came along when I had brought them out to a show that I did and put my mom in the front row, and she was able to see for herself. And I think after that point, it was like, wow.
Yeah, she saw it with her own eyes.
Yeah, she saw it with her own eyes. She felt it. She was there, and she got a chance to be in it, be a part of the experience.
What were the events that made you realize that you were going to do music for a career?
It was after you do one big show, then you feel like, okay, this is, other people are believing in it. Like there was one time we did a concert, and it got real for me then, where it was like, all right, we were locally just promoting a concert, and one you're doing, I already knew I was going to do it for real, but when this particular day happened, it hit me differently. It was in December, and Kanye West was also having a concert down the street. So people are looking for things to do that evening. We were afraid, like, oh man, we're not gonna have no ticket sales or anything like that. And I looked out the window during showtime, and there was a line of people outside, women in heels, and it's snowing outside, waiting to get in. When I saw that, and it was like people actually invested in that all the way there, and to that point, when you're just a local artist trying to build in your own city, in your community. It was like, okay, this is for real. If you can build here in your community, the rest of the world, it can also build off of this. All it takes is a seed. But prior to that, it was just life experiences from coming from my country to America. If you just research on the Congo, out of all the countries in Africa, that we're known for our music and dance. From different tribes, the women, the men, and that's one thing we're really known for. So it's also kind of like embedded in my DNA.
Yeah.
To do this.
And it seems that you also keep a connection to that culture in the music that you do now.
Yes. Yeah, very, very much so. I try to always embrace that. And it took a while to get there, where I kind of, because I'm very much Congolese, and I'm also very much American. I grew up here. So it's being able to try to juggle both cultures in one form of project to some sense.
Yeah, and you traveled, you went on tour to different countries with your music, right?
Yes, I did. I remember my first international show was in Tokyo. We did Tokyo, Amsterdam, Germany. But Tokyo was an amazing experience.
What was that like for you to be in other countries and sharing your music and having people respond to it?
Man, it honestly, going back to like how words are powerful, it just goes back to that. When you're able to go perform in another country where they don't even understand your language, but they're able to connect with it, and vice versa. I was at a show, I was the only English-speaking American performing. Everybody else was Japanese.
Wow.
On the bill. And somehow, some way, it just, to me, it was brand new to see that a different culture could connect with the music, even if they don't understand what you're saying, but they feel the energy from it. You know, whether it's the beat or the production, and they're moving from that. And that gave me a whole nother experience of music. And then you also tap into different kind of sounds around the world. Right. And you take that with you, and you're like, okay, this is the kind of music they play at these clubs, or this is the kind of music I see outside being played on the radios, or this is what they, you know. It's a good thing to do that. And I do encourage other artists to just travel outside of their circle and see what's out there. It'll just help you become a stronger, better artist and appreciate music even more.
Yeah, definitely. Have you gone back to Congo to perform for them since you've left?
That's my dream. No, that's my dream, to go back now as an adult and do a show in my city in Kinshasa, go back home and be able to give that back. Like that is something on my bucket list.
Have you been back since you came to America the first time?
No, we came in 94. So it was, you know, they had the genocide going on. It wasn't safe for a few years. Then the, you know, being able to finally get your citizenship, and now you're able to travel abroad. So now is my turn. So I'm ready.
Yeah, if you could describe what it feels like to be there in words, since like I have no idea what it's like to be there. Yeah, do you have a way to describe that?
I would say it's a sense of freedom that it's weird to explain, because I'm also saying it from the age of an 8-year-old.
Right.
But there was this sense of freedom where you just was able to go out and enjoy, I guess, the earth in a different way, where you didn't have too much to worry about. You know, and it was just a lot of happiness I can remember in that sense. But I also can remember where things need to change, you know, and I was young enough to understand and old enough at the same time to see what was happening, and things needed some change. And we knew what was going on in other parts of the country where it wasn't safe, and how other little boys your age are getting turned into boy, and, you know, child soldiers and rebels and X, Y, and Z. And we know what's going on around us, but, you know, where we were at the time, it was just a sense of happiness, but also another sense of awareness.
Were you raised with any kind of religious or spiritual influences?
My parents raised me Christian at that age, but I had grandparents and other parents who practiced, traditional spiritual practices, or who understood it and explained it to us. So there was a juggle of both there. And then coming to America, it was just more so private, go to try to get you in a private school. And if not that, you know, church on Sundays. And once I got a lot older, you know, you start to understand things a little bit differently to kind of make your own decisions.
Yeah, you said that you felt it was like almost kind of like a spiritual experience in the recording studio for you sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you feel connected to your ancestors and their traditional spiritual influences when you're in the recording studio somehow? Is that linked?
I feel like there is that is definitely what happens. There are certain songs where I'll just sit back and you have writer's block and you can't think of anything. But after a few minutes, it's like the beauty of meditation. And I'm just learning a lot of like how to really practice that. But when you like shut your body down and just let like your spirit take control of a lot of things, you'll tap into that. And I do feel that in a few records, you can even hear me. For example, like if I get into the studio, I have my producer play me a beat that I hear. Automatically, I may like it, but if my spirit doesn't connect with it, I won't be able to write to it. Then there's another beat that they'll play where my spirit connects to it, and I'll get in there and I'll mumble a bunch of whatever just comes out of my body. We'll go back and we'll listen to it, and I can hear clearly what I'm trying to say in those mumbles, and then I'll rewrite it in exactly what I heard, and that's exactly what we were able to lay out. And that's when it was like, okay, that was another sense of spirit talking to me in that way and breaking it down.
Yeah.
And creating.
How do you maintain your authenticity within the music business? Because I know there's many different layers within that. Have you encountered any challenges?
Yeah, it's tricky in this business where when you have the music side of things and you have the business side of things. And with the business side of things, it can get tricky where, people that want to work with you, they want you to look a certain way and sound a certain way and dress a certain way. And then it's not you anymore. And you now just become a puppet or you become a product, just a product that they just moved and rebrand and shape and this and that. When you still want to remain authentic, I think it's like remembering what you're doing this for.
Right.
And that right there should keep should keep anybody humble enough to just keep walking their path and be them and find creative ways to brand yourself in a sense where you're also maximizing on the business side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But to stay creative and to stay authentic, I don't think there's many of those, but to the ones that are out there in the industry, I know it's tough, but because it's tough, there's art in it, there's beauty in it.
Yeah. Well, I think that it comes through in your music. I love the album that you put out in 2018.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what was the inspiration from that?
That project was more so for me like an introductory project to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of told a story from the beginning. The first song is Zaire, so it talks about where I was born, how we got here, and then the last song is just talking about personal experiences of my daughter and where I am, because now brings me to an adult. I break things down like that on that record. But then in between, there's records where it shows the Philly side of me. Then there's a song called Sweet California where that's where I moved to and got that a California experience. And it, urged me to write records like that and work with some tremendous people out there. So it was an introductory project for me just to get to be able to get to the next project from there.
Speaking of your daughter, how do you encourage her to remain authentic in the current climate of the world, especially what's happening in this country right now and what happened over the summer?
Right. It's not easy, and I think for her, it's the beauty in having both of her parents involved in letting her know that she's strong and she's beautiful and she can still conquer anything she needs to be able to conquer, no matter what's going on out there. And then it's tricky because some parents want to shield their kids from a lot of what's going on out in this world. And for me, it's good for them to see it because it's their generation that's going to make the true changes that we all want to see.
Yeah.
It's going to be them that's going to be able to say like, hey, I saw this happen. And I remember when we marched down in Atlanta together at a Black Lives Matter protest. It was for her to see that and to see that people still fight for what they believe in some sense. And there's courage in that. So I think with her being able to see the real world and then having parents to instill strength in them and love, I think it keeps them authentic in that sense. Yeah. So it goes back to like just parenting, honestly.
I can't imagine what that's like. What was her reaction to all of that?
She was scared, of course. And then it was, because how do you respond to kids when it's all over the news, everywhere they turn, and then they're like, well, these police are supposed to protect us, and how are we supposed to feel now if they come around? Because it can create anxiety too, which is why I don't like the narrative that's being pushed out there so much, because now you also build on people's fear and creating, because it's now you're tapping into emotions.
Right.
But she's a strong one. She asked, can I go out there and see them protest? Because we drove by and we saw people marching and she was amazed. It was the first time seeing that. She saw a group of people marching and protesting peacefully.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to be a part of it. And I gave her that experience, something she can remember, growing up.
How old is she now?
Oh, she'll be 10 in like 12 days.
What?
Yeah, they grow so, and she got so much taller. So much taller.
10 is a fantastic age.
Oh man,
It's
yeah,
before like all of the crazy stuff happens, but you're still capable of talking and communicating to adults.
right, right. And she's very smart. So,
Yeah, so so the single that you put out, Killa Man,
hmm
was that in response to everything that was happening?
yes, that was in response to everything that was happening with Brianna Taylor, and it was good to get a female artist on there. Il Camille, she went in there and spoke it from a female's point of view.
Yeah.
Um, and it was something we felt at the time. The producer came and just called me and was like, "Hey, Dev, hey, he had this beat and this idea," and we went in there and we were literally just watching what was happening. I was like, "Hey, I think let's break this down."
Yeah, preserve it.
That's the beauty of music, though, man. And just being able to express yourself in that way, and other people just can just connect with it.
In your music that you're working on now, what are you hoping to accomplish with it?
Well, I am looking to make this more of an international project. So it's going back to tapping into our culture. There will be, a few acts that I'm working with and sounds that are from the other side. And at the same time, it's I want it to be a feel good project. So we've been through a whole lot of craziness this past year.
Mm-hmm.
So I just would like to change the tone, change the mood of everything, So
who are you working with? Do you have like a producer that you're working with? Team that understands your voice?
Yeah, the team that we're setting up in Atlanta, we actually have set up. It's a solid producers on there that I probably can't name right now, and some other writers that I'm actually interested in working with. Where I think just the resources are all there to make this a bigger project than the last project and kind of a bigger campaign around it.
Nice. Okay, so speaking of campaigns, there's a question that I usually ask to wrap up the conversation. And the question is, if your inner voice had a billboard, what would it say to the world?
What would it say to the world? Okay, it would honestly say to live free. And it would, in 2 words, live free. And it would also, I don't want to say so much, but live free, I would stick with that.
You can say as much as you want. You can expand. It's totally okay.
No, to live free, and today has become the day to be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people are either afraid or don't know who they are yet. But I think that time, once you are able to do that, you finally live free. And it's not just in the sense of a physical sense of living free. I mean, mentally and spiritually walking around living free in that sense. And whether it's meditation, relaxation, or whatever it is you need to do to tap into that inner voice. Once you tap into that inner voice, you'll be able to understand what it's like to actually live free without everything else that our eyes can see.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Thank you.
No, our minds are such like prisons in so many ways until we learn to break out of them.
Right.
But so many people don't even realize that they're in the prison. So
no. Yeah, you can't free someone that don't even know they're in shackles. So yeah, I do think that is like a big thing for it. Something I'm learning myself now, the art of taking yourself out of yourself. Because somebody asked me like, hey, who's a friend of my friend, a friend of your friend and an enemy of your enemy? And at the same time, they're also your friend and your enemy. And I'm like, oh, and they're like, yourself. Only you know your weaknesses and you know your strengths. Sometimes we trick ourselves into believing it's us.
Right.
It's us. The real fight is within us. And once we realize that, everything else around us is really just a distraction.
Yeah. Who would you say your biggest musical influences are?
It goes from, I used to say I live in the 70s in my head. So like Fela Kuti, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, James Brown.
Yeah, you had a fun thing happen with that, right?
Yeah, that was something I've always wanted to do. And we were able to do a remix off of Papa Don't Take No Mess. We shot the video. That was my first video in LA. And we shot that, and
Rocky did that
family
one?
got back. So yeah, Rocky did that one. Yep.
Cool. I need to get her on here too.
Yeah. no, definitely. Her and Gimsy,
Yeah.
they're good.
We'll do a duo.
Yeah, they'll be good.
Power couple.
Very power couple. And very two great ball of creative spirits. So it'd be good to have them on.
So what happened with that video? I knew that you were like meeting with like James Brown's family or something.
Yeah, the family, the grandson of the family got back to me. We connected, and he was feeling the record. He's actually a DJ, so he played it a few times, and just kind of got blessings from the family from that song, from the James Brown family, and it was a good thing to be able to make that happen.
That's some validation right there.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. The last thing you want is the family to say, "Hey, we hate that song."
True. So if people would like to find your work, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at hellokajad.com. That's Kajad, hellokajad.com. But Kajad TV on YouTube. You can at Instagram, it's at Hello Kajad, Twitter at Hello Kajad, and everything is there on one link. You can find my music on Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, Amazon, Google Play. I'm everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. And new music will be coming out soon. I know a lot of people been inquiring. And it's gonna be a fun-filled album. So I'm really excited.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta invite me back on here when we release the first single.
Totally. I'm gonna add all of the links into the show notes too, so people can just click on it pretty easily.
Awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation.
Oh, thank you. I wish we could go even longer. I miss those talks we would have.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you're listening and you like what you hear, please consider subscribing and rating this podcast, as it really helps get this podcast out to other people who might be interested in hearing it but don't know about it yet. And also, if you'd like to contact me or reach me, you can reach me at unconditioningpodcast@gmail.com or unconditioningpodcast on Instagram. Thank you so much. And until next time, stay tuned in to you.